On Friday, March 2020, I watched The Shawshank Redemption for the first time. The movie was on Netflix. I'd heard about it before and I decided to watch it. If you haven't seen the movie before and want a spoiler free review, here it is. Go watch the movie. Watch it. That's all I'm saying because you need to formulate your own opinion on this thing. So I'm going to be diving into spoilers now. If you haven't seen the movie, go watch it as soon as possible. So I saw this movie on Netflix and decided to watch it, like I said earlier. I knew it had been number one on IMDb for years. I knew there was endless praise and it was considered a masterpiece. Usually, this amount of praise would get me hyped up for a film. But it didn't in this case. I was eager to watch it, but I was preparing to be let down. I set my expectations low. I think this was done most effectively during the opening of the movie, which is a lot slower than the rest of it. I went in thinking I would be disappointed because no movie can ever live up to the expectation of being the greatest movie of all time. And with the opening, which was a little slow, I thought, oh yeah, this won't be as great as people say it is. Let me tell you, I was wrong. Very, very wrong. This film absolutely blew me away. Every expectation I had was shattered. I don't usually review movies, but this one just put too much on my mind. It's a masterpiece. After the first time watching it, it's easily within my top 3 movies of all time. It's probably between number 2 and 1 in competition with The Dark Knight. This movie doesn't feel like a movie at all. Time flew by while watching it. I was absolutely immersed in the world as soon as Andy arrived at Shawshank. The first few minutes was a little slow, but after that it became incredible. Morgan Freeman's narration as Red really adds a lot to the story. It gets you completely immersed within the minds of the characters. The whole time I was so interested in the characters and the drama all built up so perfectly by the end, I was genuinely disappointed that the movie was over. I think the thing that really sets Shawshank apart is that it takes its time. The movie is not afraid to go down rabbit trails and twist and turn all around. The Brooks story has been praised to death, but it really deserves it all. Showing how a prison can institutionalize people is done so well through the character of Brooks. And it makes me sad to say sequences like this would be left on the cutting room floor by most studios nowadays. The movie also spends time developing Tommy and showing his lessons with Andy, only for him to be murdered by the warden and Captain Hadley. The warden is also done really well, and I don't want to waste my time breaking his character down. There are countless essays describing the symbolism and plentiful biblical references through his character. But in the end, all of these sequences pay off in an extremely rewarding way as they take our characters through the journeys they need to get to the end. Let me tell you, I have never felt the same surge of emotion from any movie as how I felt when Andy finally broke free and thrusts his arm wide open to the thundering rain. Every muscle in my body told me to get up and celebrate with him, and my heart was beating out of my chest. This is by far one of the greatest scenes ever crafted in cinema history. The score swells up in this incredible surge of music that matches the swell of emotions within you. That was definitely the most satisfying moment from any movie I've ever seen. I think this scene touches you on such an intimate level because it represents everything about the human spirit. While watching the movie, you don't think this is a movie about hope and that it's a happy story, but by the end, you realize it was about hope and the power of the human spirit. I think this is all aided wonderfully by how well done the gloomy scenes are. I have never felt a more empty sense without me when I sat on my couch, jaw dropped to the floor, watching the fat prisoner get brutally beaten on his first night. There's some movies out there that have an R rating that doesn't feel needed. They're trying to be edgy just for the sake of being edgy. But The Shawshank Redemption would not work without the R rating. It is required for the story to be told. It simply wouldn't work without those scenes. This includes, the time Andy gets beaten up by the sisters and showing the abuse within the prison. And of course, the whole story is enhanced, as I said earlier, even further as it's told from Red's point of view. His narration gives a sense of intimacy between the viewer and the character to the point where I completely forgot I was watching a movie. Even a movie that I have loved and adored for as long as I can remember, such as The Dark Knight, can simply not deliver the experience that The Shawshank Redemption did. When I'm watching The Dark Knight, I know I'm watching a movie, however good and well made that movie may be. This may just be because of how many times I've watched The Dark Knight and the fact that I just watched Shawshank for the first time on Friday. And to be honest, I don't plan to rewatch this movie anytime in the foreseeable future. I'm quite scared that on a rewatch it won't be the same, and I don't want to diminish this masterpiece at all. But getting back to the point of Red's narration, I think it's especially useful near the end of this story. It really sets us up to believe that Andy killed himself, and the whole thing again is turned around with his escape, which is this incredible sequence. And what happened with Brooks earlier in the movie, this whole thing works out, and it has this really, it follows its own rules, and it has this great logic to it. Once Red gets out of prison, his narration brings us into the same mindset of being institutionalized, but this time he has something to hope for to keep him going. By this point of the movie, you start to realize that hope was the theme. This ending beautifully shows how far hope and the power of the human spirit can take you. Overall, I absolutely love the film. It made me feel emotions that I haven't felt in a long time. I loved it in such a deep level that barely any other movie can reach. It's crafted in such a masterful way with the phenomenal cinematography, story, dialogue, characters, performances, score, and of course the set of the Shawshank prison itself. I can't think of an outro, so here you go.
I guess it comes down to a simple choice, really. Get busy living, or get busy dying.